Okay, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock. We're gonna start. And this is the August 7th, 2018 meeting of the Development and Governmental Relations Subcommittee to the Holyoke City Council. With me are Councilors Sullivan, Councilor Valentin, Councilor Tallman. I think Councilor Roman is on his way. I am the chairman. And if I could get a motion to take number one off the table and open the public hearing.
So moved.
On the motion to take number one off the table and open the public hearing, on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Public hearing that the Holyoke City Council, in accord with Mass General Laws, City of Holyoke Ordinance, vote to approve an order of taking for certain takings in fee, permanent easements and temporary easements, and thus acquired by right of eminent domain, and consideration for just compensation of previously waived parcels identified, etc., on said plan as Mass Department of Transportation Highway Division Transportation Plan Profile on Dwight Street, Heritage Street, Front Street in the City of Holyoke for the purpose of the completion of the Roadway Improvement Project at Dwight, Heritage, and Front Streets. With us are the Director and Assistant Director of the Office of Planning and Economic Development, Mark Merrill, John Dijek. Gentlemen, I understand that there is a little bit of housekeeping first and foremost, so why don't we get that out of the way? If I could get a motion to amend the order, please.
So moved.
Okay, on the motion to amend the order, under discussion, it is that the Honorable City Council, in accord with Mass General Law and the City of Holyoke Ordinances, vote to approve an order of taking for certain takings in fee, permanent easements, and temporary easements, and thus acquired by right of eminent domain, and consideration for just compensation unless previously waived. Parcels identified as parcel A1, PE8, PE11, PE22, TE2, TE12, TE20, TE21 on said plan entitled Holyoke 2018 Alteration Plan and Profile of Dwight Street, Heritage Street, and Front Street in the City of Holyoke, Hampden County, Project 607256, for the public purpose of the completion of the Roadway Improvement Project at Dwight, Heritage, and Front Streets. The nature of this taking requires a public hearing for the City Council pursuant to 7883, that's a section of the Holyoke Code of Ordinance. Under discussion, any comment, questions about that? Hearing none on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we have the proper motion before us, and you guys speak to the mic, John.
Excuse me, as reviewing the amended order, I noticed a typo where it says A1. It should reflect parcel A. It was previously known as parcel 1.
Okay, a motion to to re-amend the amended order to say parcel A instead of parcel A1.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, on discussion, hearing none, on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so that's amended.
Should we start?
We shall.
Okay. So before you have a...
We're joined by Councilor Roman. Councilor, welcome, and go ahead, please.
Before you have a paper presentation. Our intent, as you can see, was to have it projected for you and the public to see. Unfortunately, the projector went dark, so can't really project. On page 1, you see, again, a high-level summary of the project that we're talking about. Dwight, Front, and Heritage Street, full-depth reconstruction that includes sidewalks and lighting. It's been a project in the works for several years, I think at least from 2009. And it is in the fiscal 18 Transportation Improvement Project. I know we've talked about this before in the context of the Finance Committee and a sizable grant that we received of $1.6 million for it, but just so it's on the record at DGR as well. Normally, the takings process would allow us for a little bit more time to get to agreement. So it's been a very quick process that we've worked through. In this occasion, we weren't given the green light by the state to start that process until the very last days of May. So we've done what normally would take 5 or maybe 6 months in about 2. So even today, we were working on this. And so in terms of timing, the importance of having this under a council vote tonight if possible, is that by our deadline to advertise the project in order for it to receive the federal and state funding through the Transportation Improvement Program, we need to have everything back to the state no later than August 31st. Because the last day that Mass DOT is going to receive everything will be the following Monday, Monday, September 3rd, for an ad date of September 15th. Right now, we're scheduled for September 1st, so if there is a positive vote today, we can meet that deadline. But anything that requires an extension up to but before the 1st of September would draw us back to September 15th. After that, we lose our ability to do this project in the immediate future with no certainty of when we can get additional funds. So on page 2, we have a summary of the parcels impacted. So obviously most of the work happens in the existing right-of-way, the existing street and sidewalk. However, there are 23 parcels where the project needs to either temporarily do work, it's anticipated that it will have to touch some part of the parcel, or will need some permanent rights for the right-of-way. Most of that is just temporary easements. There are 19 parcels that are affected in a temporary nature. 4 of them are permanent easements that are being sought. One of those 4 we actually own. It's just a matter of we're not actually taking it, we own it, but by the vote it becomes part of the right-of-way. And I'll go in depth into each one of those. The current ownership, 10 of the parcels are City of Holyoke owned, 4 are Holyoke Housing Authority owned, 2 are Commonwealth of Massachusetts, particularly as they relate to the to Heritage State Park, and 7 are private entities. In the order of taking that you have before you, you have 8 temporary or permanent easements or parcels. Those break down as 7 private properties. Again, 4 are temporary, 3 are permanent, and the 1 sliver of city property that I mentioned before. All in all, in our appraisals, we had estimated about $100,000 in value that we would have to disperse for these acquisitions. Through our efforts, we've gotten to either donations or agreements that are non-monetary, so that the city will only have to disperse $100 for one of the temporary easements, and all the public sector ones were donated. So it's a significant saving for the city there. There is 1 parcel acquisition in fee, so in its totality, it's not an easement. We're actually taking the whole parcel. That's from the Pioneer Valley Railroad. That's needed to expand the right-of-way on Front Street, which is the biggest expansion of the project. There are 3 permanent easements. They're just going to be incorporated in the right-of-way, which is why it's permanent. And there are 4 temporary easements. They're all for 3 years in duration. That's a standard term for Mass DOT construction projects, so that we have enough time to actually do the construction. Just so you know, that's what we mean by temporary. It's 3 years. So we're going to get into the meat of the 8 properties in the order of taking, and the first one is temporary easement 2. They're not necessarily in order of number, they're in order of street and complexity. So the first one is the easiest, and on Heritage Street, near Appleton, temporary easement 2 belongs to Mark Draymar. They are, it is a friendly taking, but they are not donating it. This is worth $100 in value. So we don't need to seek an extra appropriation for that. I think we can cover $100. That is purely for impact of when we're redoing the sidewalk. It's likely that they will be disturbing the pavement there, so the contractor will have to redo the pavement on that 5 feet wide segment. On the next page, you have Dwight Street near Maple Street. At the intersection, actually in the alleyway on the southern side of Dwight Street, you have the entrance to the alleyway. That's temporary easement 20, TE 20. Likewise, this is a 5-foot width buffer, because when they're redoing the sidewalk, they expect to impact that area, and we'll have to repave. Same goes for the intersection of Dwight and Maple. that 5-foot buffer at the corner they expect will be impacted, and so they would have rights, temporary rights during construction to repave that strip. The next slide shows Dwight Street next to the first level canal. It is depicting a permanent easement. It's called PE8. It's 10 feet by 20 feet, 200 square feet. And that one is needed because there is a pipe that runs underground that is an outflow to the first level canal. And so it is an easement to be able to access the pipe. It's a utility easement should anything happen in the future, during construction and in the future. These are starting on the next page, these are the bigger ones on Front Street. The smallest of which may go unnoticed, but permanent easement 22 is actually on the City of Holyoke parcel that has the Dwight Street garage. It's about 49 square feet, but again, it's just, we include it here not because we're going to re-own it, it's because so that it goes into the street layout plan. Then we have Parcel A. This is a parcel owned by the Pioneer Valley Railroad. It is 18,800 square feet, it's 470 feet by 40 feet. You could probably see if you pass by there's still some rail that is observable. This would become part of the city right-of-way and provide frontage to two properties that currently lack it. That property, well, I'll get into it, but while it was appraised at $56,500, the railroad has come to an agreement with the city for no monetary exchange, and I'll get into that. The other large one on Front Street is farther north. It is permanent easement 11. It is similar to the rail line. That rail line, if you can imagine it going north all throughout to Lyman Street, was split up at some time, I'd say probably in the 80s. I don't have the exact date. When that building on the corner was rehabilitated, and the building owner bought that piece of the rail line. With that, they have a ramp there to provide access to the building. And so what we're doing is we're incorporating it as part of the right-of-way up to the back of the current sidewalk, so that we assure that the public has access throughout that. Right now, the building owner could build up to the property line. They could put a gate, they could put a fence, whatever. And so there would be no continuity afforded to the public through there, and the city would have no control over the design and the construction of it. So that expands the right-of-way up to that point, and then there's an additional 5 feet for a temporary easement, again, because of any impacts of construction. The permanent easement is of the greatest value, $42,000. It wasn't agreed to in the same way, the value, but the owner is waiving their rights for monetary compensation in exchange for non-monetary considerations, and I'll get to that in the next 3 slides. So the next slide talks about Parcel 1. So I referenced the Pioneer Valley Railroad. They agreed with the valuation of $56,500, but they're willing to decline or waive payment in exchange for something that is of equal value. They have an agreement dating back to 2006 with the city. It is a $1,000 a month lease for access to the rail line through the current city gas station on Commercial Street. That allows them to load and unload there where they can't do it in other places. That agreement is going month to month, so by the stipulations of the agreement, they had a period where it was guaranteed, and then it's just a month-to-month agreement. This would give them 57 months of stability, and then they know that they could market that ability to a company that would need loading and unloading. Right now, there's a high degree of uncertainty for them, where they can't convincingly tell a company, 6 months from now we'll have this capacity because they're month to month. So this would give them that benefit. They could attract company operations through that. They could, or use that capacity somehow. And from our standpoint, we wouldn't have to disperse $56,000, $57,000. Right now, they're actually not even using it, but they're sending checks. So, and the following slide, the ownership of both the building at the end of Front Street, at the end, I'll say on the northern end, next to Lyman Street, as well as the building on the southern end, is in common ownership. Or at least the principal is the same principal. You may know him, Eric Shore. He may be in the audience, or he may be joining us later. The project, the acquisition and inclusion of the right-of-way of permanent easement 11 in particular, he's willing to not contest and forego payment, even though he doesn't necessarily agree with the amount. It has been his representation that $42,000 would not compensate for the damages done by losing the exclusive parking on that parcel. So we started getting creative and looking for opportunities for mutual benefit. The owner of the property, Mr. Shore, has been lining up a project which is mature to start construction next year at 439 Dwight Street, which is at the intersection of Front and Dwight. Over the years, we've had conversation that when we got to that, we were going to have to look at access, at parking, the sorts of things that we would do normally in the course of our work as the Office of Planning and Economic Development. So what we're looking at is doing two things. One is, while the city would obtain the rights of the permanent easement in PE 11, which is in front of the building next to Lyman Street, we would not extract the rights of the property owner to continue using exclusively their parking there. The parking spots would be about 34 as for the design right now. Additionally, we would provide about 22 parking spaces for the use of that project when it begins construction and when it does construct. If the project doesn't materialize, then the parking spots clearly would be available. But at the time where construction begins and there's tenancy, then they would be able to use 3 spots on Dwight Street, right between Front and the canal, and 19 spots that correspond with the frontage of 439 Dwight Street on Front Street. That is the meat of the presentation. We're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilors have questions? Well, we're joined by Linda Bacon and Jimmy Leahy. Welcome. Councilors have questions for Planning Department? I probably do, but we are in a public hearing. Are any members of the public here to speak on? Okay, okay, if you're here to speak on this matter, what we'll do is we will go up to the microphone. We'll just state our name and our address. And, we're under kind of a tight window here, so I mean, take a minute or two, but, gather your thoughts before you walk up there. That generally you'll address the chair. You can come up now, yeah. So you'll address me. So just your name and address, and welcome.
My name's Edward Owen, 120 Front Street, Holyoke.
All right.
I have a paper I'd like to give each one of you.
Marcos, while we're on this, before Mr. Owen, which parcel is Mr. Owen on the TE or the P?
120 Front Street.
No, Mr. Owen, just,
Yeah.
I'll address you in a second, but I have a question for Ms. Murrow. Marcos, which parcel is Mr. Owen's? On the TE?
Mr. Owen owns the property just north of 439 Dwight Street, behind Parcel A.
Behind,
So between Parcel A, if you look at, see, I should have put numbers on this slide. It's a slide called On Front Street Permanent and Temporary Easements, PE 11 and TE 12. That's the title of the slide.
okay, I have it.
It shows actually, sorry, that's the wrong slide. It's the one before that. Permanent easement.
Excuse me, is it possible I could get one of them papers that I could see?
Yes, you have.
I'm sure it's possible. I only
Yeah,
have
we
one
have,
copy.
we have
but-
copies here.
Okay,
It's titled Permanent Easement PE 22 and Parcel A. My
Okay.
apologies. So you can see in the graphic where it identifies Parcel A on the lower right-hand side, there is a building that says Edward A. Owen with a
Oh, I see it.
book and page number.
I see it.
So his property extends from the line towards the left of the building line. It says very small PL, that's property line. And then towards the farthest right-hand side, there's another small PL. That's the extent of his property.
Okay, and is Mr., before I get to Mr. Owen's question, is Mr. Owen, is he PE, any of these, is he giving easement or anything at this point?
No.
He's not. Okay, Mr. Owen, I just wanted to get that background. Mr. Owen, you handed to me, the committee, a warranty deed, let's see, that's dated December of 2004. So, Mr. Owen, go ahead, you have the floor.
The first copy of the papers I gave you is the deed that the community development is using pertaining to my property. There's 2 pages for that.
Right.
You
so
go to the third page.
okay.
You'll see the actual deed. And if you read within that deed, you will see that I have easement rights on this property. Now,
Okay.
I don't know if somebody didn't do their due diligence. I don't know what happened here, but I was not notified of this. I was notified of this meeting today at 1 o'clock when John Dijak called me.
Okay,
I had no idea about all this whole plan here. So now I am in the middle of, well, actually, I learned about this 2 weeks ago. When I went up to community development for a different issue, that's when I found out about this whole thing.
okay, well.
And they explained to me that I wasn't told and I wasn't sent notification because I'm not an owner. Well, you can see clearly on that deed in front of you that I am an owner.
Okay, so you have a question about notice, what is? go
Okay,
ahead.
but my question goes beyond notice.
Okay, fire away, what's your question, sir?
I want to know how they think that they can, the railroad's really kind, yeah, they're very generous with other people's property. I can see that. Sure, they're going to give it away, but it's not theirs to give away. I have rights to that property. And we're going to find this out because I just hired another attorney to handle this for me. I'm not very good at this. You could tell I'm nervous, and I'm actually upset too, but that's beside the point. I've been actually overlooked as a property owner in this city since more or less when I bought the property. And that's fine, but this is ridiculous. You are not going to take my property from me and just say, oh, it's okay, because the railroad said it's okay. I don't know what's going to happen with all this. Now, if we can come to an agreement, fine, let's do that. But at least talk to me. Come to me and say, this is what we got. They didn't even do that. These plans were all drawn up. I was never talked about these, but I know other individuals that own property on that street were. I'm getting dry mouth. Do you mind if I take a drink of water?
Go ahead.
I don't go into politics. Although I probably make a good counselor. So anyway, my complaint is this. I own that, I have rights to that property. I own that, I actually own the property that the tracks are laying on. And this can be all, if you look at that paper that I gave you, if somebody will do their due diligence and look at them books and pages of the ones that are marked on there, you're gonna find that what I'm telling you is the truth. I spent a lot of money on this because I knew this was gonna, no, that's not why I spent the money. I spent the money because of the canal walk that was supposed to go behind my building, and that's how I found out all this other stuff. So I don't know why the community development is trying to, I don't know, do this project and just kick me to the curb, but it's not gonna happen. At least I'm gonna try my best not to let it happen.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that this council can see and read these papers and documents and see what they're trying to do to me.
Okay, thank you,
And
Mr. Owen.
the other thing, one last thing.
Sure.
I'm all for Front Street being repaired. I was never against that. But they are taking all my parking. They just compensated the guy for his parking. They not only took his property, they gave him back his parking. Me, they're not giving me anything. They're just taking my property. Do you think that's right? Anybody in this room? Anybody sure? Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, Mr. Owen, yeah.
All right, I'm sorry,
We're
I'm
just
sorry, I'm
addressing
sorry.
the chair. I think we set the ground rule early.
I
Are you good?
apologize.
I don't want to cut you off, but
I
are
told you
you,
I'm not a politician. Okay.
okay, so you're set?
Well, I have to be.
Okay. Is there anyone else that want to address us? And we'll get to his in a minute, but anybody else want to address us regarding this, for or against? Okay. So Marcos, Mr. Owen raises a couple points. One is notice. Was he entitled to notice, and if so, was he given notice of this public hearing?
No, formal notice he was not entitled to. The local ordinance is clear that property owners need to be notified, and we did that properly. We did not notice him as a property owner because through our due diligence, we've shown, and we have, I would say, unequivocal reason to believe that this is not his land, even and including the documents that I have right here, and we can go through that if you'd like. I have some documentation here that I can show you to that effect. I think it is perhaps a misunderstanding. We've known Ed for a long time. He was one of the first community members I met when I started. I think we've worked very constructively in the past, but we have a difference in opinion, and we're ready to defend our opinion with the documents that we have in front of us.
Okay. All right. Do councilors have questions on this point? Councilor Sullivan?
So, Marcos, it seems that we do have a sticking point here. Do we actually have documents that show Pioneer Valley Railroad owning the property or only having an easement over the property?
Yeah, I just didn't answer that because I didn't think it was part of the question. So if you want me to address that, I can do that head on now.
Right.
The deed that Mr. Owen is providing right now provides two key things. One is the meets and bounds on the property lines that he currently has, which conforms with the same things that we had. Essentially, that he owns. Starting at a point about, 250 something feet from Dwight Street. 209 feet, 0.54 feet from Dwight Street. That's where his property line starts. It runs for 260 feet or thereabouts, and then 80 feet wide towards the canal. There's no discussion about that, right? Our documents and his comport with that. The other document that he has here is talking about being subject to the rights of way instruments recorded in a book and page that is sold. It doesn't even appear online, and we actually had to go, our law department staff had to go there and get. And what that shows is that Front Street at one point in time did not seem to have any rail. The right-of-way, what we're trying to recreate is actually the conditions back in 1869. And it shows only one property, right? It doesn't show 120 Front Street because 120 Front Street did not exist back then. 120 Front Street and 439 Dwight Street to its south was all one property. And so it shows a property running 470 feet in length by 80 feet in length, or 80 feet wide. the same width that he has now. So that is 80 feet from the canal. That corresponds with the survey documents that we have. The page that is titled Permanent Easement 8, you will notice the survey document that shows 80 feet wide from the canal to the edge of the building. So that all comports with his property. So all that documentation shows that. There is a further deed in 1964 where it divided the property that was 470 feet long. That created 439 Dwight, and that created 120 Front Street. Through that division, the transaction at that time kept an easement through the now driveway of Mr. Owen for the owner of 439 Dwight, but also conceded an easement from Dwight Street to 120 Front. None of these documents make mention of rights towards Front Street. It does mention rights to the right-of-way, to access the right-of-way, but none of that is impeded by what we're doing. In fact, it's only enhanced. What we're doing is we're bringing back the right-of-way to its original 1869 composition, which is 120 Front Street may have rights over private property right now, which is a rail line. And so Mr. Owen could use those rights to enforce to the railroad, say, you can't put a fence there. I need to access my driveway. I need to access my loading dock. I need to access my wall to do repointing work. He could use those rights today with a private property owner. By the action of the taking, what we're doing is we're providing a bigger right-of-way, and he will have uninhibited rights to access his building. So his rights were only enhanced in that way. If, however, the suggestion is that he has exclusive rights, that is his property, there's no documentation, neither what we've found going back to the 1800s, nor here that would even remotely suggest that.
Okay, so my question is, then, is there a deed that shows Pioneer Valley Railroad owning that piece of property, or do they only have an easement? Because I've seen this numerous times now, and where the lines have been moved onto other people's property, and they actually do not own the property. And all I've heard so far is easement, easement, right-of-way, easement. All Pioneer Valley can do in exchange, they can abandon their easement, all right? But they certainly can't sell property they don't own if they don't have a deed. And I'm not a lawyer. I think Dave's a lot better at this than me, but you can't sell something you don't own. You can abandon an easement.
Correct, and by the same logic, I would also say you can't argue that you own something that you've shown no proof that you own. The deed for 120 Front Street shows very specifically that the property runs up to the point where the rail line starts. It does not show 1 inch beyond that.
We're giving Pioneer Valley Railroad $57,000 for something they don't own?
Yes, of course they own it.
Well, do they have a deed that says they own it?
There is a deed, yes, in our, so we have to do title examinations for all of this. And there is a surveyor that not only physically surveys out on the field, but also looks at the title examinations. There is a very lengthy deed. It has a book and page number. I probably don't have it right here in front of me in the presentation, but it does have one, yes. Oh, actually, I may have it in one of the graphics. It's cut off in this graphic, but I know it's in the bigger street layout plan. Oh, actually, no. Here it is. Under the one titled Permanent Easement PE 22 and Parcel A. So it lists Pioneer Valley Railroad Company, Inc., Book 5310, page 226. That's the book and page reference to the parcel. And it is a surveyed parcel.
Marco, it says 5310.
Page 226.
And that's a deed, correct?
That is the deed reference, yes.
Okay. Council Sullivan, any more?
Nope.
Okay. Other councilors have questions? Ms. Rowan, you're back at the mic. Did you want to, did you
I'd
want to
like
make
to
a...
rebuttal, if it's okay.
Council Lee,
Is this to be expected to be voted on tonight?
you know, it's, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I'm just curious.
So-
Thank you.
So, nothing's preordained, Jim. I mean, so that, ever. So, I mean, I don't know what, I haven't talked to any counselor about this at all. Ms. Rowan?
What I forgot to mention is if you look at the last page in the documents I
Sure.
gave you,
Go ahead, Ms. Rowan.
it shows the law where you can go back to the beginning of time on deeds and on titles, and it's applicable even though it's not mentioned in the title.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rowan.
I would also ask that you take give me a 30-day so that my attorney can complete his job, and also maybe Marcos can come up with a deed, because I don't think he's going to be able to. But
Okay, so,
if you could give us 30 days, if you'd give me 30 days so I can get my, my attorney back.
well, you've actually anticipated my question. So are you good to go, Ms. Rowan? 'Cause-
I'm sorry?
Are you set for now, or do you have any more questions? For right now? You okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Marcos, in light of this, could you just repeat for me this has to be returned to Mass DOT by what date? The last date?
So the absolute last date that no one in Massachusetts controls, which is what the federal government sets, is the last day in this fiscal year where it can be advertised, which is September 15th. That's a Saturday.
Okay?
In order to meet that requirement, Mass DOT, and I already got back to them today anticipating that question, can we push this back? You know, questions come up, people feel uncomfortable voting on stuff.
Yeah,
I get
glad
it.
you did. What'd they say?
The firm deadline that they need everything submitted to them is Friday, August 31st. So that includes any city council votes. I understand that the city council doesn't meet again, normally scheduled until September 5th. So what I was pleading with them is if we're going to advertise on September 15th, could they shorten in half the window where they usually certify everything and send to the federal government and then advertise. And I got a straightforward and very quick no. So that's
Right,
as far as
okay,
timeline.
so next city council meeting is, after tonight, is September 5th. So that won't cut it per their deadline.
Unless there's a special meeting, if it's the body chooses, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the body, I think, is needed regardless of. who
Well, the
shows
mayor
up.
can also call a special meeting.
Right.
So
Right.
the mayor has that ability. So,
I'm just sensitive to the fact that people have scheduled vacations.
well, I understand, Marcos. I understand that. So, but we have an open question here, or potentially an open question, and we had a suggestion by the public to extend it for 30 days. That doesn't look like that's possible, but if I looked at.
Mr. Chair, if I may further
please.
clarify, in July of 2007, my predecessor was working on planning for the canal walk at that time. And in that context, the city and my predecessor were discussing with Mr. Owen potential easements on the back of his property. And an appraisal was provided by Mr. Owen at that time. So this was his document that he provided to the city, makes mention of the following. That the parcel of land does not have direct frontage along a municipal right-of-way, as a 40-foot wide strip of land owned now or formerly by the Pioneer Valley Railroad is located between Front Street and this parcel of land. There are right-of-way agreements noted in early deeds, namely Book 275, pages 338 and 441, that provide legal access to the subject site and building. So what this is saying is admitting that the property is separated from the street. There's a 40-foot piece of land there that's owned by someone else. However, in the context of the paragraph is saying that should not affect the value of the property. because there are agreements to access the street through the rail line, right? Which, as I said, he could use that to enforce his access to his property. What we're doing with this project is providing at least what he has now and more. The project would keep access to the driveway, keep access to every loading dock, and provide organized parking to the property. So his current rights, I'm not saying he doesn't have rights to the right-of-way, he does. And we're going to bring the right-of-way to his wall. So it will enhance those rights. Any suggestion that he has additional rights to keep the property for himself is just not substantiated by the documentation that's either been provided tonight or at any time. And we've been in conversation with Ed Owen for a while on this project. This is not the first time that he hears about the project. Last year, we met to discuss even the design of the project, and he did make verbal representations that he had ownership rights over that project. So that was part of our due diligence, right? And people sometimes make claims over land, and I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight. It's whoever owns it. We need to acquire it from them. But those representations don't hold up to the documentation that we've been able to find.
Okay, thank you for that. Does any counselor want to make a motion at this point? Have other questions?
Excuse me, could I just, one more time, I know I'm sorry, but
No, it's okay, Mr. Owen.
he
Go
went
ahead.
back to '07, I believe that's what you just said, '07, and all I'm asking for is, okay, you don't want 30 days, 15, 20 days to let my attorney finish what he started. And then I will bring you the proof of what I'm saying, and then we can at least move on with this. What Marcos is saying is not true. I'm not saying he's belligerently saying a lie. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying he's misinformed, maybe.
That's okay. I don't think you're hurting his feelings, so. Okay, so.
I don't think so either, sir.
I don't think it's nothing personal.
Okay,
here.
and I just had,
Yes.
I have the copies of and you just gave me this, but I never received written correspondence from the city of what they're going to do, and I would like to know if I'm going to get any type of written correspondence, which I believe was already answered that I'm not, because they're saying I'm not an owner, so they're not going to send me anything, if I'm correct.
Well, I think all the plans for the city, Marcos, for this project are available in your office. Are they available online?
We've provided hard copies before, but
Okay,
we
so
can provide
there's
hard
all sorts of
again.
copies
Yes.
ready for your perusal
Okay.
at the office. Are you going to get them mailed to your address? No. Can you go to the fourth floor City Hall Annex and pick them up? If you can't, I'll have them brought here to Mr. Allen. You can pick them up from him if you prefer.
Can I get a 15-day wait on this?
Well, we understand your position, so unless you have anything else to say, okay, so you're good. I understand your position. So okay, so I don't see any counselors raising hands. Any counselors want to make a motion or make a comment? At this point, is there anyone else in the public who wants to speak on this matter? I don't see any hands. Yes, Councilor Palmer.
Yeah, I'm just concerned on this project. I mean, there's considerable time done with this project and research done through the Planning and Economic Development. I'm concerned that we possibly could lose this funding for this project and it won't get done. So I'm really, and I understand Mr. Owens' points and everything, but if we don't do anything tonight and don't vote on this tonight, then pretty much it's, unless we have a special meeting, and I believe my concern is yours, that we have to have, at least 9 or 10 people, and everybody would have to vote for this. Out of 13 councilors, we'd have to have 9 people. We might not even get 9 people here by the end of August, so I believe that we should go through with this tonight. That's my opinion. I'd hate to lose the funding for this project. It's been working on for several years in this area from the state and the federal government. So I'm going to ask that this be moved forward as a recommendation to the full council tonight. That's my vote on this, to pass this tonight.
Councilor Reagan?
I just want to weigh in to say that I don't have a full understanding of the legalities of the claim that this property owner is making. However, I would ask if the committee does find that the owner does have reasonable standing that he be given a reasonable amount of time to come forth with documents, since it seems he has provided some. If I was the property owner, I would want consideration. That's just my perspective. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Counselor Oman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I thank the property owner. I think as a fair compromise to this committee, I would suggest that we make a recommendation to get this out of committee without recommendation, put it to the full council, so if we have to table it there, at least there could be a special meeting called by the mayor, and it's not stuck in committee, because as we know, the mayor can't call out an item from committee to the full council. So I just think it's a fair compromise to put it forward without recommendation, and then if we decide to table it there as a body, the full body, I know for me, it's been nuts. I would hate to lose the funding as well, but I hear the homeowners, calls today, and so I, similar to Councilor Sullivan, thank you, want to see that actual proof of deed just for me, so I know that we're not opening up to liabilities, even though I trust Marcos and the team, and I would even want to see that document and just read it, the one that he provided and quoted this evening. So I'm just saying, just as a way to get it out of here so it's not stuck in committee, I would support Councilor Tolman as long as he's willing to make a recommendation that we send it out of committee without recommendations, that way it can go to the full council in case it doesn't pass tonight. We can at least try to table it in full council to continue it at a later date. Just my 2 cents.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll just I don't think we can do it quite that way. We are in a public hearing, so we'd have to close the public hearing. If we close the public hearing, then we really can't take any more testimony. The only other thing I could think of is if you wanted to meet on 3 weeks from today, that'd be the 28th, you could continue this at 28th, and you could have a special meeting at 6 o'clock, have a special meeting at 7 o'clock for this one item. That would be another alternative. Councilor Sullivan?
Well, I think that answered my question, because I'd want to see not only for Mr. Owen's sake, but before we concede $57,000 in income, I'd like to have the documentation that it is more than just an easement that the railroad has.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm well, first of all, is anybody available on the 28th? I am.
I am.
Councilor Bacon is? Councilor McGivern?
I'm not available.
Okay, so Councilor Valentin is not available, so that would be Councilor Bacon.
Meeting that night?
28th?
Yeah, possibly.
No, there's no ordinance committee meeting that night. There's no ordinance meeting. So, I'll just say, Mr. Owen, I'll just say just my own perspective, Mr. Owen's, I really appreciate Marcos really working on this, and all the property owners have been kind of working with the city on this. I'm really torn by it myself. And it's a little frustrating when I hear Marcos saying that the gentleman was aware of this more than a year ago, and there's been other meetings, and now we're switching lawyers and we're doing all that. But I mean, maybe for overabundance of caution, maybe we should continue the public hearing to the 20th. Marcos, are you available on 28th?
I was on vacation, but I guess I'll be here. I would also offer that if the law department is here, they've done research. It hasn't been just us. In fact, we're only a part of the team. The law department does all the legal research. So if the committee wants to hear from them, they're also available.
David?
Councilor Sullivan.
This would be a question to the chair. Could we approve this subject to confirmation of ownership by the law department?
Well, you're saying, can we close the public hearing, and then can we later on hear clarification from the law department and full city council relative to this? I would say you could.
I mean, for me, that would answer it.
Okay. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, could we, they're here tonight. Could we have information? Could we suspend the rules and hear from the law department tonight? Have any information we have, or?
Well, I don't see anybody from the law department.
Somebody's here.
Who's here from the law department?
Yeah, yeah.
I've never seen her.
Yeah, but she came in with
Okay, so Councilor, we'll make a motion then.
make a motion to suspend the rules and hear from the law department on this issue.
Second?
Second.
On On the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, go ahead, please. You have to tell me who you are, and I've never seen you in my life, and welcome aboard. And
I'm Tasha Marshall in the Law Department, Associate City Solicitor.
Okay.
I have been working with the Planning Department on this issue, and I did research the rights in the land of the railroad parcel as well as Mr. Owen's parcel. Mr. Owen's parcel dates back to 1869. I did go to the Registry of Deeds today to find the original deed on this, and the deed does mention a right of way. It doesn't mention any easements. It doesn't mention any interest in the land. It doesn't mention anything of that sort. There is also a title search that the planning department did for Mr. Owen's land that doesn't make mention of any rights in the property of the railroad parcel either. With respect to the railroad parcel, there's no mention of any easements on that parcel. The only easements that it speaks of is possibly easements from Holyoke Gas and Electric. However, Mr. Owens, from my research, doesn't have any rights in the land of the railroad parcel.
okay, did you write a title report for this one, Attorney Marshall?
No, I did not write a title report for this. The planning department did have a title search done by another attorney.
Is there a title report from that title search?
I believe the planning department does have that title search.
And that title report said that there's, what, emphasized?
That the
Attorney Marshall
Pioneer
said?
Valley Railroad owns that parcel along Front Street. Out of an abundance of caution, because we had been talking with Mr. Owen, we ordered a title search on his property. We didn't have to. It wasn't even called in the plans, but we said, well, okay, let's dig. It was basically, let's see if there's something on another instrument that was recorded, and there wasn't anything there. What we found was other easements that he had towards Dwight Street through someone else's property, or an easement that was on his property from the property just to his south. His rights is to access the street.
All right,
for providing a street.
Was Mr. Owen given a copy of that title report, by chance?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, that's a public record, right?
Yeah,
Pay the
yeah.
public funds,
No,
so
absolutely.
I don't really see a problem giving that to Mr. Owen,
No problem.
sending it to him.
Yep.
All right, based upon that, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Joe, over here. Joe's got some.
Oh, Counselor McGivern.
The attorney. The city council votes for eminent domain on August 28th. The mayor signs it the next day. What is the grace period before the eminent domain can take place?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Eminent domain vote takes place on August 28th at a special meeting of the city council. Can the mayor sign it the next day, or is there a grace period before it can take place?
To my knowledge, I don't believe that there is a grace period. I can research that before this goes to the full council tonight.
That would be helpful.
Marcos?
If I may, my understanding is there is no grace period as far as when we can't record it. There is, Mass DOT requires us to pay within 30 days, not that we have to wait 30 days. So if we do it on the next day, it checks out.
Okay. All set? Okay, well, back to us again. What's your pleasure?
I'll still make a motion. After hearing the law department, I would vote to approve the order taking for this order. Okay. Ask to close the public hearing.
Second.
On motion to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay, 1 no. 4-1, public hearing closed.
Make a motion to approve the order taking for all these properties to to make this project the Massachusetts Department of Transportation Highway Division Plan.
Second.
Approved?
Okay, thanks. On the motion to approve this as amended, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. I think I heard one no. Did I hear just one? Okay. All right, so there's one no on that. Okay, so this has been approved to be recommended to the full city council. It's meeting momentarily, 4-1. Thank you. If I could get
The game plan here.
game plans to take up number 3, Joe. Open public hearing. Yeah.
5 minutes or?
I don't know. We'll see what happens. If we get up,
We're starting the meeting at 7.
okay. Okay, well, that's. On the motion to take item number 3 up out of order, suspend the rules and open a public hearing on the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Let's see, order that in accordance with MGL Chapter 30B and the Holyoke Code of Ordinances, the city council consider declaring a portion, oh, wait a minute. Strike that. We want to take up on it, my fault. We're going to take up item number 2, please, if we could just go in regular order. So we'll just motion reconsider. Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll take up, if I get a motion, take up number 2. Yes, it's public hearing. Motion is on the table, take up number 2, which is a petition for Salmar Realty, Inc. for a special permit for a drive-through restaurant, Dunkin' Donuts located at 500 East Hampton Road. On the motion, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we have a public hearing. Okay. So, yeah, come on.
Let me talk to you.
Let's see, Mike, Mr. Parent, is Mr. Parent here? Yeah, Mr. Parent, Mike, Bob, Mike, if you could come and join us. Okay, Mr. Levesque, did you want to start us off?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening. For the record, I'm Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. I'm here with a project team, Peter Roscothen from the Log Cabin, as well as Mick Cordiff, also Paul Fergal from McMahon Associates, who's the traffic engineer, as well as Paul Karen from Paul Karen Associates. As you're aware, we're here tonight for a proposal for a Dunkin' Donuts to be located in the place of the existing Mountain Joe's. So what you have before you this evening to your right is leave and go out that entrance that way, if you're following me. So if you're parked here, you can leave out this entrance here, or you could continue through if people let you through. If they're nice enough, they let you through the drive-through lane. We have a stop bar here. We anticipate that this people might want to leave through the bypass lane, so we have a stop bar there to let them do that. Just to give you the reference, this is the up off the page here is that upper parking lot for the log cabin. The log cabin is approximately here, and again, this is 141. I know the time is short, so I'll stop there. I'm sure there's a number of questions you have. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Also, Paul Fergal is here to address any traffic questions you may have.
Okay.
Oh, I apologize. Just to clarify, thank you, Paul. Paul Karen just reminded me, as part of this project, the Delaney's Market will be located within the Dunkin' Donuts. So that's kind of a high-end, it's similar to the food from the Delaney House. It's kind of a high-end prepared foods pickup. It would be pickup only. The drive-through would be strictly for the Dunkin' Donuts. But just so you know, I apologize, there is a percentage of the square footage, it's about 600 square feet, I believe, that's dedicated to Delaney Market. And they're looking to potentially pair these to symbiotic uses throughout the Pioneer Valley, potentially. So this
And
would be
Ms.
a
Levesque,
kind of a pilot location.
I can't say, the print's so small. The overall size of the building?
Just to clarify, I believe it's 2,200, but let me confirm that for you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's 2,400. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Thank you.
Mike, Bob? Bob, this is your first time your first time city council? Oh,
Bob Parent,
okay, Bob, yeah.
right in the middle. No, down at the bottom, there you go. Hi, Bob Parent, city engineer.
Okay, well, welcome.
Thank
Bob.
you. Thank you very
Congratulations
much.
on your job. And Attorney Marshall, I lost her, but congratulations to you too, wherever you are. Okay, so Bob, tell us what's your perspective.
Certainly. As Mr. Levesque indicated, we have worked with the applicant. The original proposal raised a number of concerns regarding site distance and conflicts between access to the log cabin facility and the Dunkin' Donuts facility. So the applicant has put forward what we believe is an improved layout from what was originally submitted. I will note from a traffic standpoint, the one item that remains of a concern, and it's a concern that is difficult to quantify, but it's more of a judgment call, is that as drivers are heading southbound on Route 141 East Hampton Road and are turning into the Dunkin' Donuts restaurant, they'll have to turn 180 degrees to get into the queuing lane. The concern there is that going to be such an abrupt movement that it may cause some drivers to slow down within Route 141. And that would be the primary concern is, would this project impact the traffic flow on Route 141? The model doesn't really take that into account. But again, it's really more of a judgment call. Will people, anticipating the fact that they need to do a hairpin turn, start to slow down before they get into the exit to the project? I'll say that if the council would be so inclined to approve the request for a special permit, I'd recommend that the council consider a condition that allows revisiting this issue after the facility is in operation, because it really is something that depends very much on how people learn to access the facility and how that impacts traffic flow long term. I believe it's a valid concern, but I can't say that it absolutely will happen.
Now, Mr. Levesque, okay, is there a right-hand lane do we discuss
I
that?
have a sketch of something that Mr. Parent has suggested that I could put up if you'd like.
No, not yet. I just okay. It's a potential sketch, and I heard what Mr. Parent said, so I'll expand upon that in a minute. Okay, Mike, did you want to add to this?
No, I think Bob did a good job covering our concerns, DPW's concerns.
Okay. Do councilors have questions for the applicant or city departments? We are. Councilor Weaven.
17 queues stacked up in the drive lane. Just thinking what happens on Northampton Street. Could you tell me how you based only 17?
Yeah, so I think Northampton Street is a good example of kind of a very difficult functioning site. One of the biggest issues with Northampton Street is that there's no separation from the drive-through itself and the parking. So when you pull in off of Northampton Street, there's no place for someone that wants to go in and just get takeout to get in. In this particular case, we'll be able to completely separate the drive-through traffic from the internal parking. We've found that that's the biggest concern that we've run into and the biggest issue. So anywhere we can, we're typically separating that movement. So those movements for the drive-through as well as the bypass lane is huge. Sometimes when you don't have really on Northampton Street, you really don't have a bypass lane because it's so clogged you can't get through. So people are stacking out into the street. That's what you see there.
Far more than 17 cars stack out into the street at any given moment on Northampton Street. My question again is, why only 17 queues?
Actually, 17 queues based on the current operation of Dunkin' Donuts, if people can get through the drive lane, is more than adequate. If you think of Northampton Street, people are backing out into the drive-through lane is through the access aisle for the parking. That's where the clog happens. In terms of operationally being able to move based on empirical data from Dunkin' Donuts in Western Massachusetts, specifically the Slima family has about 52 stores right now. So we have data from all over Western Massachusetts, and this is actually more than adequate compared to some of the other stores. When they start to run into problems with dedicated drive-throughs, it's typically anything under 10.
On a street such as Route 141, and I'm sure if you haven't done the traffic study, you know the traffic counts of what's coming up the mountain in the morning and what's going home in the evening. And I respectfully disagree with everything you just said. 17 is nowhere near enough to keep the cars from stopping out on that road unless you have dedicated lanes out on the road, both a right-hand turn going south and a left-hand turn going north.
Okay.
Will Dunkin' Donuts be paying for that?
For a right hand
For the road improvements?
There's been some suggestion from Mr. Parent. It's been recent, so we have not communicated those to the franchisee. But my understanding, and if I could put that sketch up briefly, I think that would help illustrate that.
Okay.
So this is a little bit difficult to see, but you'll see at the bottom of the page that there is some red lines. They represent a suggestion by your city engineer, which we understand the concern that he has. It's a legitimate concern. Anything associated with Dunkin' Donuts traffic is always we want to make sure we're taking a keen look at it. But that said, from the center line, he had suggested a 11-foot lane, then an additional, which is there now, but then an additional 11-foot lane that would allow for a deceleration lane, basically, and then I think a 2-foot buffer between that and where we would enter the site. That pretty much puts it at the right-of-way line, so we would adjust our site plan back accordingly during the site planning process to allow for that. So it's a fairly recent suggestion. It's a logical suggestion. It's not a huge cost associated with providing that. We anticipate it's probably $20,000 to $25,000 worth of work. That said, we have not run that by the applicant, but I think they would understand that that would be an improvement that they would most likely be responsible for.
All set? Okay. Counselor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. Is this the same footprint as Mount Joe now?
No, sir. No, Mountain Joe is probably 10 by 20 is my guess, the footprint, kind of a rectangular building parallel with the road. And this is 2,200 square feet, so this is significantly larger. A lot of the area, Mountain Joe is really strictly a takeout. There's no patron use area.
So this would actually be a sit-down restaurant type of thing?
There would be a patron use area internal to the building, but about 65 to 70% of the business is typically through the drive-through.
Okay, but are you guesstimating or estimating that the same amount of traffic will be that is currently there now for the Mount Joe?
No, we're anticipating a bump in traffic for sure,
Bump
and that's
in
been
traffic.
looked at specifically based on the use.
Now let me ask you this, will this reduce the traffic amount on the Northampton Street Dunkin' Donuts? Because right now, that's, as Joe said, it's
Yeah,
congested.
typically they don't want to cannibalize other stores, but yes, I think this will absolutely reduce that, as well as the other Dunkin' Donuts that's been approved on Hampden Pleasant, which is slated for construction this fall.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Tallman.
Somebody want to speak first? Or? Okay. Question on and I understand the engineer and his concerns. When you're going into there and you have to sort of make that turn to go around, what's to say, is there a blockage that someone can't go straight across and cut around?
Yeah.
They could take a shortcut through the parking lot, or is that something that you have them going around? I'm just concerned about that.
It's a good question. So likely, based on where we have the order window, it is the possibility that early, probably most likely in the afternoon, someone could do that movement. and go through. We do have it marked off, but that could be done. We want to leave that open so that we can have our truck access through there as well in off hours. So that is a possible movement for sure. But once the stacking, as you're aware, gets to a certain point, it's not a concern at that point. And we do have a stop bar for the other access aisle. So people usually play nice once it's established.
Yeah. Because that is really a quick turn, going like this. People sometimes aren't used to that. You're going in, you go straight.
Right.
And I know that Dunkin' Donuts on Northampton Street does have a lane where you can get around.
Right.
And there is enough room to get around, but just barely the drive-through lane. So, and sometimes people, when they park and have their coffee, they want to go out that way and go around the drive-through area.
Right.
So as long as there's, enough access, enough room, that's a concern of
and
mine too.
we would expect that through the, in addition to this process, we would expect that this is, there's, Mr. Parent will want to take a closer look at what we provide in terms of changes, adjustments to accommodate the, potentially the deceleration lane, as well as, if things need to be adjusted with the curb cuts themselves to make it as functional as possible. So we will absolutely committed to looking at those items closely.
And one other question, the restaurant that's also there with the Dunkin' Donuts, is that just going to be, it's takeout? Do people drive for that or they walk into that?
That's, it's takeout, but I'll let Peter speak to that. Thank you.
May I address the issue?
Sure, Peter,
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
just Peter Roscott, what's your address, Peter?
Peter Roscotton, owner, president of the Log Cabin Banquet Meeting House, 500 East Hampton Road. Answering Councilor Tallman's question, we expect about 600 square feet of a retail store in this partnership that we have with Dunkin' Donuts. We're very excited about it. As some of you know, we have built one in Long Meadow, and we're really interested in bringing one to Holyoke. So this is really our passion of ours to try to make this happen. Strictly retail, nobody eats there. Delaney's Market is the kind of concept where you get a meal, a salad or something, and you take it home and you eat it at lunch or you eat it later on. The second point I want to make, and I'll be happy to answer any questions, Mount Joe right now, we have a stacking capability of about 4 to 5 cars. I do expect that Dunkin' Donuts will do more business than Mount Joe there, but I think it's important to notice that we're going from 4 to 5 cars to about 17 cars, if I heard him correct.
Okay, thank you. I just have one quick question. Number of employees number of jobs we're creating, Rob or Paul or?
I answered that on the last Duncan, and I'm going to pull this out of the archives, but I want to say it was about 25 employees. I'd prefer to answer that again when I confer with the franchisee, but I think it was 25. 6 for Delaney's Market.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. We are in a public hearing. I think all councilors have asked their questions. Does the public want to address pro or con on this issue relative to the proposed drive-through? I don't see anyone raising their hands at this point. Okay, what I'm inclined to suggest is that we, if the committee would just bear with, that we motion to close the public hearing and that we then talk about potential conditions that would be affixed to the special permit. Is the committee ready for that? Okay. If I could get a motion on the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Okay, motion is made and seconded to close the public hearing and discussion. Hearing none. All in favor to close the public meeting? Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. I'd like to, and I really appreciate the chairman's patience, but this will only take a minute more. I just want to really thank Councilor Sullivan, Mr. Parent, Ms. McManus. We put in, I would suggest to you, a lot of time prior to this meeting, working with the applicant, and I'm not going to pull any punches here. The applicants are obviously iconic. They have an iconic part of Holyoke. I mean, nobody can. Well, I can't deny that. So it's something that I was happy to do. But yet we all know that this is a very unique area of roadway. So when Councilor Sullivan and I met with Ms. McManus and Mr. Parent, it was our suggestion to our superintendent and our DPW and our engineer to come up with a couple of conditions, and I'm going to motion to these conditions before you and ask for consideration. Actually, I don't even have to motion. I will motion, but there's extra copies, so you can, Josie, would you hand that to Mike? And here's a copy for you, and Nelson, and Peter. Sure, if you want to pass along to Peter, and Mike, if you want to pass along to the other counselors, and I think Rebecca's back there behind the board. Condition 1 year from the date of the issuance, so I'm gonna make a motion to amend.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, 1 year from the date of issuance of a CO for the proposed drive-through, or sooner in the event that significant traffic safety issues result from the drive-through restaurant as jointly identified by HPD and DPW, the owner shall come back before the city council to review site operations and traffic flow associated with the site. Should documented problems exist, the owner shall identify and implement measures such as adding turning lanes to mitigate such concerns, subject to approval of DPW and the planning board. Condition number 2, city council approval for the requested special permit for a drive-through at 500 East Hampton Road is contingent upon full compliance with all other city board and department approvals for this project. The council reserves the right to rescind such approval if full compliance is not achieved and maintained by the owner. So those are those are our way of saying that this is a hard piece of roadway. We already closed the public hearing, sorry, I should have thought that. Well, yeah, that's what we came up with at this point, just because it was a, did you want to get recognized, Jim?
I just wanted to ask about hours. Hours of operation.
Hours of operation. Yeah, that's an outstanding question. Did they mention hours of operation at all in their,
They do.
Mr. Parent? What are the, well, actually, what are the hours of operation for the drive-through at Northampton Street? Is that 24? I don't think so either, but I don't remember what it is. I think it might be 6 a.m. to midnight.
If I may.
Go ahead, Bob.
In the response to comments to the principal planner, I believe they indicated that the hours are 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so that would be a condition as well. So a third condition would be the hours for the drive-through would be 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the drive-through. So those are the 3 conditions. Do councilors want to have other conditions at this point? If I could then get a motion to...
I'm going to close the public hearing, right?
What we did close.
Okay.
So a motion to approve special permit with, if I could get that motion.
Yeah, motion to approve the special permit with the said conditions mentioned, 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. On the motion by Councilor Tallman to approve with conditions, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, so we'll recommend that to the full city council. Very quickly, and those are always famous last words here. Where's my agenda? If I could get a motion to take up number 3.
Motion to take up item number 3.
Second.
Discussion.
Motion to take up item 3 on the table. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. This is a motion, this is an order that 30B in Holyoke Court of Ordinances, City Council considered declaring a portion of parcel on East Hampton Road as surplus property available for disposition subject to certain reuse restrictions. Basically, it's the middle parking lot between at the log cabin. So there's an upper tier parking lot, there's a middle tier parking lot where the main level is for the log cabin, and then the lower tier parking lot, which we just discussed, which is where Mount Tom Joe To Go is and where the proposed Dunkin' Donuts is located. At this point, seeing how it's 7:20 and I think we're chomping at the bit, Ms. Levesque, did you want to give us a brief overview on this? Okay, and just if I may, for the body, I don't believe that there's a rush to do this. So it is my hope that we would consider tabling this for a future DGR meeting, but at least hearing from the proponent at this time, ever so briefly. Ms. Levesque.
Again, thank you. Good evening. For the record, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. So This is a parcel that the log cabin is looking to acquire through the proper channels. If they already have an easement across land that's owned by the City of Holyoke. If you see where the square or rectangle that you see where there's a building shown and there's parking, that's the current area. The expanded area off to the left or to the south is about 30,000 square feet that they would like to utilize. There's an area there that's fairly flat they would like to utilize for parking. There's some ongoing discussion with the endangered species program because this is all endangered species habitat. So they're looking closely, and we're working closely with Andrew Smith from the Conservation Commission, as well as a member of the Law Department regarding the correct procedure, not only with the endangered species program, but also locally with the City of Holyoke to make hopefully make this happen. But the idea would be that this land could potentially be acquired, after an appraisal. That appraisal would come back. Hopefully there would be a process that we would go through, but the endangered species program would end up, it sounds like, with the remaining land, which I believe is about 50 acres or so. That would be mitigation for the expansion to the log cabin. So we've worked on it in concept. It's still, I would call it, infant stages. So we would, I think Chairman Bartley's suggestion is logical to potentially table this to a future date.
So thank you. Before I say one more word, councilors have questions for anyone at this point? Seeing none. And does the city departments want to weigh in on this at this point? Okay, hearing none. So what we did in conservation a couple weeks ago, Mr. Parent was there, Council Sullivan, I was there for the meeting. We reviewed this with the Conservation Commission. They brought up some very important points. The surface of whether it be asphalt, well, it would be some kind of other grade, water runoff. There's endangered species. There's a lot of variables, and the commission is going to have significant inputs. I would suggest that whatever we do would be incorporating conditions by the Conservation Commission relative to this easement. So I'd want to have that clear. But at least we raised the issue, and so we don't need to belabor it anymore. So if I could get a motion to table, please.
Second.
On the motion to table, all in favor? Aye. Okay, the last order is next DGR. Can we just pick a date for September for right now? Is there any, let me just take a look here.
September 10th?
That's a Monday. Is September, Josie,
Yep.
September 10th?
Yep.
Mike? Nelson? Oh, you're the best. Okay, so September 10th at 6 o'clock, Pete?
Sounds good. I can be here.
You can be, you're retiring.
He's retired.
Okay, September 10th at 6 o'clock, the next meeting. Oh, one final motion, and I'll do it.
Motion adjourned.
Okay, on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.